Mission 7 is learning all about gravity. So we're going to learn about gravity. Do you know what gravity is?
Yes.
And what is gravity?
It's a force that pulls things like towards the earth.
Okay, it's a force that pulls things towards the earth. And to be honest, many of my students, that's the same definition they would give. So really good job. And what happens, that means if we take something and we drop it, it's going to fall towards the earth. But you said the earth. Do you know if gravity is the same on every planet?
No.
No, it's not. And so on different planets, different things would weigh different amounts. So we've done some awesome calculations, and we're going to make a model of how a cup of water would feel on all of the different planets, because gravity is affected by how big the planet is. And as we've seen in the other missions, not all of the planets are the same size and the same mass. So gravity changes. Some of them have lots of gravity and you would be really heavy on those planets, and some of them you would be really light on those planets. So we're going to fill up cups, and then you can tell us on which planet which ones feel heavy and which ones feel light. Are you ready to do this?
Yes.
At home, this can be done using some very simple equipment. All we need is a measuring jug. If it's in metric, that's even better. We need cups for each of the planets. Be careful. Look at which planet is going to need the most. It's Jupiter. And make sure your cup's going to be able to hold everything for Jupiter and we don't see any spills. And you can also do a wee bit of food colour. But because we're in my laboratory here at Concordia, we are using graduated cylinders to measure things out. These are what we use to measure in the lab. But this is just a fancy scientist tool, and a simple measuring cup will do the job as well. So are we ready? We're going to start at the planet closest to the sun, and that's Mercury. So on a Mercury, this is what a cup of water would look like. We've got our cup, we've got our food colour into our cup already, and we're carefully going to pour in the amount of water that it says in the awesome lab booklet. So our first planet is Mercury. The second planet we're going to do is Venus, and gravity gets a bit stronger here, so we're adding 90 milliliters of water into our cup for Venus. So let's pour carefully and not spill anything. And even now we'll start to notice there's a lot more water in this cup than we had for Mercury. Next up is the planet that we're standing on. This is how we're basing our scale. So this is 100 milliliters of water that we're adding into the cup for the Earth. And that's some awesome pouring going on there to make our cup for the Earth. And we can see that these planets, gravity is different because each has a different amount. Next up, we have Mars, the red planet. Mars is a wee bit smaller, so the gravity is a lot less. Next up is one of those big planets, and we're going to want to be really careful here. All right, we're going to do Jupiter now. So we're going to care. This is where you have to be careful at home, because we want to make sure that our cup holds everything. So here we go, we're going to pour, we're going to tilt, and we're going to pour the whole thing in. Whoa, and it just worked, almost as if Dr. Graham worked that one out. All right, continuing on, we've done Jupiter, and that cup is very, very full. So next up, we have Saturn. And so we're going to give you this, and you're going to pour in for Saturn. There we go, perfect. And then we'll pass that off, and we'll put that back in our line. After Saturn, our next planet in our row is going to be Neptune. This one feels very heavy as well, so let's be careful pouring this in. There we go. Let's get all of it in. Perfect. And we can see here as we look along our line that a cup of water, the same amount of water, is very, very different amounts in terms of how much it weighs on other planets. Uranus.
This one's a little less heavy.
This one's a little less heavy, yes. That's because gravity is a little less on Uranus than it is on Neptune. And of course, good old Pluto. We don't call him a planet anymore, but we're still going to do it. Is there something weird about this graduated cylinder?
Yes, it's very small.
It's very small, and that's because there's so little gravity. And also, what color do you think it's going to be?
Green.
Green. It's kind of green, it's kind of bits of other things. That's because we're really not sure what color Pluto actually is, because it's so far away. And when you look up in the sky at night, what's the biggest thing you see in the sky?
The moon.
The moon, right. So we should do one for the moon, because the moon has got gravity, and so we're going to do one for the moon.
Which which has zero color.
Which is zero color, yep. It actually hasn't any color of its own, but it reflects light, and we'll learn about that in another mission. And then our very last one, are you ready to pour in all the water that space represents?
Yeah.
Okay, on you go. Wait, what? What's happening? And that's because in space, if you're not near anything, you have no gravity. So this cup is just empty. So I want you to tell me, is this light or heavy?
Light.
Right, I got no weight at all. And then I want you to basically tell me light or heavy.
Kind of heavy.
Kind of heavy. Okay, Jessica, why don't you choose one? That's Mercury, small planet, light. And are we ready to try for the big one? How does this one feel? Let's be careful and not spill this one.
Heavy.
Heavy, and that's because then on that planet, the gravity is the strongest of all of them, so that's why it feels the most. So what we've got here is what 1 cup of water, 100 milliliters, would weigh on each of the different planets.